Now we need to measure the compression ratio, so we are going to need a syringe and some water. We will use the syringe to pour water into the combustion chamber, 10 cubic centimeters at a time, 20, 30… We are getting close to the brim. Once the water starts to bulge about the edge due to surface tension, we stop and calculate the volume of the chamber. There were 30, then 6 more, so 36 cubic centimeters total. Okay, let's round it to 38. So we have 38, and considering the piston stroke of 66 mm and the increased piston diameter to 79 mm, let's add 3 cubic centimeters for the recess in the piston crown, so we are getting a compression ratio of 8 to 1. It's slightly better than 7.2 to 1 from the factory, but that's not how a real man does it. A real man has about 10 to 11. To get this ratio, we need to reduce the combustion chamber to 25 cubic centimeters. Let's see how much 25 is. Let's pump out 8, then 5. Well, here is 25. And the water level is 3 millimeters lower than this plane. We need to machine 3 millimeters down to achieve about 10 to 1 compression ratio. This is very good for 95th octane. The engine will gain more power. Believe it or not, I wanted to try a repair method, even though it's not 100% legal. The point is to use foil under the bearing. I know, considering a proper approach to this overhaul, this is heavy jerry-rigging, but hear me out. The crankshaft is standard size, the front and rear journals are within spec, the central journal is worn out. This is a common problem on these engines because the crankshaft flexes, I think. I tried to find 0.25 mm oversized main bearings, but no luck. However, my seller has a lot of OEM-sized main bearings at a significant discount. Totally understandable, because who needs stock-sized bearings for such an old engine? A planned format in my head? What if I make this experiment? What if I compensate for the wear on the central journal by adding foil underneath the main bearing? You may ask where my common sense is, but did you see the previous episode? Do you remember the crankshaft play in this engine, and it somehow used to work? And note that it doesn't have overheated journals on the crankshaft or the camshaft. The bearings are bad, but there are no spoon ones, so why not? I don't want to build this engine for years to come, I just want to breathe new life into it, satisfy my curiosity and gain some experience. We just need this baking foil. I measured the wear on the central journal and concluded that this thick foil should be sufficient. If you have seen the previous episode, you may have noticed foil under the rod bearings from the previous owners, so I'm not the first one to use this technology. However, I don't like the idea of using foil under thin rod bearings, because it 100% deforms the bearing's shape. It's not good. In my case, the foil won't affect the shape of the main bearing because it's very thick, it will slightly decrease the inner diameter, and that's exactly what we need. Of course, I need to polish the central journal a bit, because it has a small defect. I'm going to use my hand, because if you didn't know, I have a CNC hand, a very precise instrument if you take my meaning. I just want to smooth out those scoring marks. 5 minutes should be enough for this task. It's important not to rub a depression or flat spot in one place. It should be done evenly. Frankly, I did it once before and that engine is still running. But this is just an experiment. Don't try this at home. I'm going from 320 grit to 1000. Yeah, now it meets roughness class N1. Then I'm cleaning it thoroughly from any abrasive residue. The next step is to grind these areas slightly on the bearing halves, Because of the foil, there won't be enough space for them to sit properly after I add foil. So it's important to do this by eye and measure in place. You remember the CNC hand and CNC eye. Then I'm wrapping this side of the bearing and carefully putting them in. Look at this, the foil gets cut by the bearing when you put it in place, because everything is precisely calculated. Then I need to tighten these parts and check if the bearings feel good. It's interesting to see how the foil gets straightened and smoothed out like it was under a press. You can even see the texture of the support surface imprinted on it. This means that the bearing holds really tightly. I want to repeat, this bearing is thick and rigid. This trick won't work with the regular thin bearings in modern cars, so you are never going to get a perfectly round shape using shims under this type of bearing. So I feel confident with my decision, especially considering how poorly these engines were made in the factory. I don't think I made it worse. Don't forget to punch a hole for oil. Let's add some oil to the journal. Well, the final assembly, and what can I say? We have nice and smooth rotation, very even and no binding. The play is minimal and I presume it's within factory specs. I need to mention that I've always had problems with this central journal on engines I built before. It was always too loose, even though the crankshafts were ground perfectly to size and the bearings were brand new. But every time after assembly I found that this central journal had way too much play. If I had good measuring tools, I would investigate the problem. The most interesting part is receiving ordered parts from the post office and getting machined heads from the shop. What was done here? The combustion chambers were milled to increase the compression ratio. I got these copper gaskets from a motorcycle to improve sealing between the head and cylinders. Speaking of cylinders, they have become thinner because they were bored from 76 to 79 millimeters. Originally there was no gasket for some reason. Additionally, guys removed this lower cooling fin because the cylinders go deeper now and we need more space here. So we've got 3 millimeters lowered heads. It's possible to go down to 5-6 millimeters, but that's extreme. Otherwise detonation will destroy the engine quite quickly, and we don't have nitromethane fuel to compensate. Well, this is the thermodynamics lesson you missed in school. Just without dynamics, only thermal. And we need to work really fast. I'm going to freeze the central support, the cylinder block is heated up. We need this thermal difference to easily install the crankshaft. Aluminum has a good coefficient of thermal expansion and contraction as well. This process requires precision and grease. Where is my grease? Oh, here it is. I'm adding grease to the rear main bearing. The ice is about minus 20 degrees Celsius. This should work. Precision and grease is the key. And grease is important because the first seconds after the overhaul are crucial. You have to be sure no components are dry. What am I even explaining? You already know this. Throw off the ice and let's go. We have only one chance. Oh no. We need to push the central support until the bolts screw in. It's going little by little. I'm pushing the support to its correct position. Where are my bolts? Why didn't I put them in hand? Yes, okay. Phew, that was intense. I need a shower after that. I'm not sure if anybody gets me, but it's a special pleasure to unbox really old new parts. The smell, the rustling paper, it's always thrilling. So I'm going to remove the old main bearing from the front support and install a new one. By the way, notice how easily the crankshaft spins. That's good. The support is hot, the bearing is from the fridge, there is nothing stopping me from mating them together. The magic happens. Does it? Oh yeah, mission passed, respect lost. And the last step, this assembly goes in the front. And we need to make a thermal difference to install it. But wait a minute, I noticed that the diameter of this camshaft oil channel is criminally small. That's not good. Look at the other channels, they're okay. But this small 4mm hole should fit 3 camshaft journals, 8 lifters and rockers in the heads, not to mention the cooling of always overheated heads. What do you think about this? I know, the factory engineers weren't fools, but I'm going to make this hole at least 5mm. And it's important not to smash my face with this beautiful magnesium support during the drilling. Wow, I'm not familiar with this hole. It's a totally new hole. Now I can rest easy because I reckon it was a bottleneck for camshaft lubrication. A small but useful improvement. Again, the hot block and cool down part. The magic moment is… wait a minute, no magic until I apply grease. Did I mention that the precision of work in my garage is like at the Bentley factory? Boom, there we go. That's it. Now the temperature will equalize between the two parts and there is no force strong enough to separate them, except for my hammer. So far I'm happy with the result. There is no excessive play as there was before and the crankshaft turns easily. What could be better than this? With proper maintenance, this part of the engine shouldn't have any problems. Well, we work late into the night because it's summer and we need to get as much work done as possible before the end of the season. Every time we can't estimate how long a project will take. And this time is no different. We were sure the engine would be finished in a week, but reality has its own rules. Okay, the next episode will be the first run. It's very interesting to see how everything works and whether it works at all. I'm going to take a nap because tomorrow morning I need to proceed assembling this engine. Well, thanks for watching.